piece. And on the Range Rover Classics, this is a place where the rear glass is where we get rust. So this is going to come off. What we've done first is we have, of course, moved the glass up. We're going to detach here, and that'll let the glass hang low. What we'll then also do is get our electrical disconnected with these two brackets, and then now what we've done is we've gone ahead and found a replacement set of glass. This one came from Lucky 8, and it's the Masai glass, which is actually a company that does really, really cool glass for Land Rover aftermarket. You might want to look up Masai, but what I like to do first is get the glass out, make sure it's the right glass before we get into obviously tearing into the project. And of course I'm doing this remote, so I wanted to just go ahead and loosen up just a turn to make sure these aren't frozen. If you've ever worked on a Land Rover, you know the chances of finding some stuff that's frozen or wanting to strip is high. And sure enough, this one here I'm going to be very careful with. It's wanting to strip on me. So one thing you have to do before you mount this up there is to go ahead and get your rain channel in, and then of course on the bottom we're going to do the rubber gutter piece, or the rubber. And you need to save your rubber no matter what shape you think it's in. These are really, really hard to get, so we're going to be doing some cleaning to get that off. But anyway, so we'll get that on. You got to drill out all the holes together. And if you just detach this little sleeve here from both sides, that'll come loose, and that's going to mate up really nicely with what you have here. As I've mentioned, I've got one of these that's stripping, the other two are ready to go. The nice thing is if I do kill one, this is going to go back in with large, looks like number 3, which I have a number 3 with me. So the glass is on, and there's a little trick to putting these on. There is a bracket here that if you let go of this by accident, it will slide all the way down. I say that out of knowledge, not from having done it, but from having read the instructions. The secret to this is as you're backing these out, you have to make sure that you don't let that happen. You have to put a screwdriver in one location, and of course it doesn't matter on the old glass you're taking off. When your new glass comes, you're going to find that these two screws are in the piece of glass. You want to take those out with the glass laying flat, and then go ahead and put a screwdriver in the bottom one to hold the bracket in place. And then as you come over here, and you're going to have to do that on both sides, you're going to put a little screwdriver or an Allen wrench in the bottom hole to hold the bracket in place. And while it's up here with the screwdriver kind of protruding out at an angle, you're going to come in and stab this with another screwdriver. Then you can pull the other screwdriver out, lower the tab, and put this screw in. There are instructions to this, and instructions kind of lay it out, but make sure you read them. Now, in doing that, I had to go ahead and salvage the hydraulic arm pivot ball here, and I'm about to rivet this one in over here. So let me finish that up. I'll go ahead and put the attachment on, and the glass is up and out of the way. From there, I've got to go digging after the mechanism. And from there I've got to I've gone ahead and loosened it back out of the way, but this is actually now what I'm just rotating to get back and out of the way. And I've got a 1/4, and that is a 5/16. So I'll remove both of these, get this part out, get it installed into the other window, and after maybe cleaning it up a little bit, and we'll go from there. Okay, so once you have your catches off on both sides, now you're going to find it hard to believe, but you're going to find there are 2 screws in here, bolts perhaps, that are going to correspond with this. And I went ahead and drilled out the rivets for a little catch piece, and then I went ahead and pulled out that rubber because could not see what was holding it, and sure enough right there is where you're going to find those. And of course once you look here, you start thinking there has to be something there, and there is. So I think at the beginning of this video I said I'd be done in, you know, just a matter of minutes. And honestly, the glass, I'd say, was 10 minutes. It's this kind of stuff. Don't take for granted. If you're a Range Rover, you know you've got rust to deal with from time to time. I restore series Land Rovers, and so I just never figured that I would be doing the same kind of cautious grunting and careful retrieval. But I've had to drill out so many things to get access to things that are, I mean, I had to drill the head off of that. I had to down drill the head out of here. I mean, this is right out of a 1950 series. You don't need that much water for that many years to cause this kind of problem. It's a little bit sad because otherwise it's a perfectly great piece of glass, but the frame is just toast. Anyway, now I've got to go after these with pliers, because once I have this assembly, I've got a new set of bolts here, and we'll be able to start then getting our work shifted over to this project and getting onto the actual new piece of glass. Unexpected. I'm having to drill out bolts that are totally frozen, and then tap new holes for the mounts for the locking mechanism on a 1995 vehicle. So, and this has been going very carefully, very gingerly, and I'm still having to do all this. So, yeah, you're not going to believe that statement, but this has not been a Mongo turn wrench too hard project. Thankfully, my late stepfather's tap set is coming in very, very handy. Done. Of course, I have the shroud for the rear brake light and the rear brake light left to do. I'm just going to unplug this because we installed it and got this up in here behind that bar, and we want to just neatly kind of tuck it up in here behind the cover. So the rubber, when you take it off, you have to be very, very careful. It just basically pulls out of a track very carefully, and it's going to be very rusty and very much in need of cleaning. And as you can see, we've cleaned ours up to where it looks virtually brand new. Now I'm going in, and bit by bit I am working my way down and pushing it in place. Once I have that in place, then we'll go in and we will work on the actuator. So obviously when this is closed, which it's already wanting to stay open all the time, so we'll figure that out. Let's come over here. When this is closed, we're looking for enough motion from when the button is pushed to cause that to release. Currently that's not enough motion. If I get in here with my finger, I can make that release. So I just push that down. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to adjust this to where it is just about ready to go, so that when this button gets pushed and makes that much contact, it will cause the action to happen. I also have to install this still, and I've got one bolt left to go. Okay, so the last little piece you're going to do here before you start worrying about the location of your catch down here, which is adjustable. We flipped ours, and it's actually recommended in the instructions that you might need to, and I don't know how you can do it without doing it, but you're going to flip yours and make sure that it's a little lower. Notice how it's not exactly centered. Now, what I'm done here is I pushed both of these into the locked position, and then what you end up doing is you just start pushing the button and push it once, rotate in. Push it once, rotate in. And you're going to be using your 1/4 inch here. So if I push the trigger right now and nothing happened, I would rotate this in. If I push it again, notice it fired. It's before. So you start with these things actually a little bit spread out, and you're going to be a little bit of a bow here. And again, look, I fired on this side too. So I'm actually in a good place here. Every time I push the trigger, both sides are firing. And every time I put it in the up position, both sides are catching. Now that's a common issue with these, right? Sometimes you close it and only one side catches or one side latches, so you have to kind of slam down the other. So this is where all the adjustment happens. And if you go too far, it won't catch. If you don't go enough, it won't release. And so you can notice here I've got a really nice full range of motion, full throw by where we're at, and that's what you want. So now one of the things that I did is I got the rubber all the way in, and you basically put it in at the edges, center, and the other edge. Then you do halfway between, then you do halfway between that, and then you just kind of fill in. And what you're doing is you're going to tuck up the first little part of the lip on the inside lip, and then you come in here with a screwdriver and come all the way down. And it's a little hand cramp job. What I've done from there is I've used some spray adhesive to get the end of the rubber onto this piece down here, and then just with some electrical tape I've kind of dressed this. I'm going to leave it there. It doesn't look bad, and eventually it's going to peel off, but it's going to help keep that rubber in place a little bit longer. This is original factory rubber, and it's already, it's already starting to come off, but it's just giving that glue that's back there a better chance to hold while we're finishing up the project. Okay, so we're getting down really close to the end here, and everything up here is functional and working like it's supposed to. And I'm putting the cowl on for the brake light. And if I bring this down, I see, I see the edges of the piece of trim right there around the light. And let's turn off the alarm. There we go. And what I'm finding is that the original window had, if you look at this, the black aspect in the glass. This is actually in the glass. The black only comes up to here and then comes back down. And if I look at the factory glass, notice that the black comes all the way up here. The other thing that this has is these, which are what the brake light is wanting to attach to. So I'll pry those off. But the problem we're going to have is that this black obscure piece of paint or whatever they have here is very different on the factory glass compared to what we have back there. I do need to go after these and get this off, and so I can save those for the owner and get those to him. But I think he's going to have to take this to a Land Rover dealer and get them to, I don't know what. But the rear brake light cowl is very exposed. Now, the only option I can think of is just to do away with the third rear brake light, which is about the only option that I really can't think of. But, beyond that, so we take the rear brake light out, we still need to have this back here to cover up the mechanism. The black trim piece here is just much bigger than what they've accounted for. We're just about done, and I've just temporarily kind of drilled these out and got the screws started and just making sure everything's fitting in nice and snug without putting pressure on this. And I'm using the original trim because the original trim accounts for, I guess, power locks and the wire that goes back to the third brake light. So I'm going to do a little modification here. I'm going to do a trim so I can get this piece back in. I've gone ahead and put it up where it's supposed to be, so I know exactly where to mark that. As you can see, I've just kind of temporarily started that. And we're kind of at that final phase here. I've also used the original trim piece here because I think it's so much better than the piece that comes with the kit. So if it's in good shape, keep yours. You won't have to do any cutting or any drilling, which you would have to do on the piece that comes with this kit, and I didn't like that. I'll get some electrically conducting epoxy tomorrow and we'll fix that little faux pas, and that'll be good as new, and that'll work really well. You need electrical conducting epoxy, and then we're gonna be all set and done there. So anyway, really that's gonna pretty much conclude it. Once I get the brake lights and everything back in, the shroud just sits right up on here nicely, and it just sits on here like so. And I can't do it with one hand, but okay, so not only do we have to re-drill and tap these because they were just never going to survive to any wear and tear. If you look down in there, you see that white piece is kind of slotted on one side, and I couldn't figure out if that's slotted, why isn't the shaft here slotted? And if you look really closely here, there's broken off ears. So those aren't doing any good at all. And I think that has something to do with when that turns. Yeah, it would. Look, that would slot. That's what it is. So when this actuates up in here in the fob and it pushes that in, that little white thing is supposed to turn this, which then puts this in a locked position. And then since that little white thing can't turn it, it's just sliding around it right now. And so this thing perpetually, you can just push the button. So this piece is broken right there. And if we could get a piece or this whole device right here, then we would be in good shape, because that's why that can't turn right now, and get that into unlocked and locked position, because that's not slotted to go into the slotted piece right there that is then actuated by the fob.
Okay, so our project is all done now, and just a couple things in as a reminder, when you're buying your glass, make sure you get a piece of glass that has the third break light cut out in it. I'm going to do a little customization to make mine work and make it legal, and that's fine, but obviously if we'd have just gotten a piece of glass that had the black paint that went a little higher, we would have not the ability to see inside of the cowling from outside the truck. It's not bad, but I don't really like it. I know the client's not, so we're going to solve that problem. But if you buy that a little differently, you'll be in a little better shape than I am. Also, as you know, part of the reason why you might have replaced your glass is because not only was it rotten, but because you were getting really sporadic latching, like this, the brand new piece of glass, right? So it's an issue with Range Rover Classics, and I've still got some tweaking to do. The two things you do to tweak that are you move your posts. These are the factory posts that come in for the catches. You flip those upside down for this kit, and you put them in, and then you move them and adjust them. Then of course your adjusting rods right up in here will be what's important too. If I shut this door with both hands, I'm good. Everything's going great. If I shut this door a little less aggressively with both hands, I'm great. If I shut this door with one hand in the middle, I'm not there yet. But anyway, we'll get there. Thanks for watching, and I hope the project was worth your time to see if you want to do your own glass conversion. 3 to 4 hours if you have all the tools on hand. Ours took the better part of the day because we went to another shop where I had this stored, and I just took like, drill and a couple of hand tools, and then when I got there and realized I needed a rivet gun, and with all the rusted pieces, I was probably going to have to go ahead and re-tap and re-drill some holes. If you have your ability to get everything out beautifully, you're going to be going quickly. If anything is rotten or rusted or needs replacement or retapping, you're in for a little bit longer project. But there's no reason not to get into it. You can at least put the new glass on. Even if it doesn't latch, you can get it to where you're watertight while you're still working on it. And then maybe you have a friend or a shop that can loan you some taps if you need that, if you're in that far. But anyways, thanks a lot.